Good morning. We are talking about a biology topic. Clear? And that is a excretion topic. In previous class, we learned it how in a human being body, kidney play an important role to remove the wastage. What are the wastages removed from our kidney? Good. A number of amount of nitrogenous waste. That may be urea, uric acids or ammonia. And based on this waste material, we categorize the organisms also. Clear? Have you remember in previous class we discussed about that? Ammoniolitic, ureotelic and ureotonic organisms. Clear now? So here we are discussing how the filtrates, what are the nitrogenous waste comes into the kidney. That waste is going to removed, and that removal product we call them as the urine. So how the urine form in a kidney? So in a kidney we have millions of filtrates. The filtrate units are present. These filtrate units we call them nephrons. What we call them? Nephrons. Millions of nephrons are present in pyramids of a internal structure of kidney. These nephrons otherwise called uriniferous tubules. What we call them? Uriniferous tubule. Okay. So, in these uriniferous tubules, maximum how many tubules are present in a kidney? 1.8 millions of nephrons are present in each kidney. So, about the nephron structure already we discussed in previous class. Clear now? So, once again I repeat that one. This one is the structure of a nephron. Nephron is going to divide as in a two parts. What is the first part? This first part we call them Malpighian body. What we call them? Malpighian body. Second body we call them tubules. Second body is tubules. Tubules again divided into three parts. What is the first part? The first part of a tubule which is very near to this Malpighian body, we call them PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. Then it's followed by a one U-pin shaped structure that we call them loop of Henle's. Loop of Henle. Then another tube which is very far away from the Malpighian body, we call them DCT. DCT. This PCT, loop of Henle, DCT together called second part of nephron, that is a tubule parts. In a Malpighian body, this one also made by two parts. What are they? This cup-shaped structure is called Bowman's capsule. Inside the Bowman capsule, there is a network of blood vessels. This network of blood vessels we call them glomerulus. So in previous class I said glomerulus is made by three type of cells only. One is endothelium cells, then basement cells, then a special type of squamous epithelial cells. What we call them? Podocytes. What we call them? Podocytes. So these are made by three type of cells: endothelium cells, basement cells and podocytes. These three type of cells help them to filtrate the blood in a Bowman's capsule only. So here let me discuss when this blood comes, which type of blood and which blood vessel bring the blood? Renal artery. Renal artery bring the oxygenated blood with loads of waste. Oxygenated blood with loads of waste only. So this oxygenated blood when it enter into the renal artery, they may flow out through this glomerulus. Okay. So here glomerulus help them to filter that one. So here to make pressure, what happened here? The diameters of this renal artery is different only. So as the outlet is very narrow outlet, this may give one pressure on this glomerulus. Clear? This pressure help them to filter this all material. As a result, the filtrate may next pass on to the Bowman's capsules. Here, due to this filtrates enter into this glomerulus, from here the blood water filter, otherwise we call them primary urine. What we call them? Primary urine. Okay, here the chemical composition of blood and urine are same only, but only one difference is there. What is the difference? In this primary urine, there is no blood cells. In a blood, there are a number of types of cells. We know it. Red blood cells, white blood cells and platelets. But in a primary urine, except blood cells, remaining chemical composition is same as to the blood only. Now the filtrate may enter into the first part of a tubule, that is a PCT. That is a PCT. So the process, due to this effective pressure, when this blood may filter and it's enter into the glomerulus, this was the first step of mechanism of urine formation. What is the first step of mechanism of urine formation? That is a ultrafiltration. So in a glomerulus, from in between the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule, here due to effective pressure, the blood may filter. Such type of filtration we call them ultrafiltration, or we call them glomerular filtrations. Clear now? Then we move to the next step. So here, when the filtrate may enter into the glomerulus, this primary urine next flow into the PCT. In the PCT, nearly 75% of water and some of the salts may be get reabsorbed, because a huge amount of water and salts are here filtered on. If you remove this everything, then our body is going to suffer from dehydration, and we are going to lose a huge amount of useful salts also. So it is necessary to reabsorb the 75% of water returned back to our body through a process of osmosis. So here the second step is tubular reabsorption. In a tubular reabsorption, the 75% of water and number of salts is going to reabsorbed. Then very less amount of water and few excess salts may be now move into the loop of Henle. The loop of Henle is surrounded by a number of peritubular capillaries. Peritubular capillaries are nothing but the blood vessels only. So as we know, in our lower class we learn it, arteries are connected to the veins through a smallest blood vessel, what we call them capillaries. So here also the arteries are connected to, they are going to branch it only. This all branched part is going to make a one network. So the network of peritubule which are surrounded to the loop of Henle, we call them vasa recta. What we call them? Vasa recta. The peritubule, have you understand now? The peritubular capillaries which are surrounded only loop of Henle, which are surrounded onto the loop of Henle, we call them vasa recta. Peritubular is complete blood capillaries, the network which are surrounded throughout the nephron, that we call them peritubular capillaries. But the capillaries which are surrounded only loop of Henle, we call them vasa recta. What we call them? Vasa recta. Peritubular capillaries and vasa recta. Have you understand? Vasa recta also a capillaries network which are surrounded onto this U-pin shape of loop of Henle. So the blood vessels and the capillaries which are surrounded onto this loop of Henle, we call them vasa recta. So here in a loop of Henle again I divided. What are the part? The part which are originated from PCT and make the U-pin shape, this capillaries we call them, or this tubule we call them descending loop of Henle. Descending loop of Henle follow to the, they move to the upside, then we call them ascending loop of Henle. Descending loop of Henle, ascending loop of Henle. So loop of Henle also have how many parts? 3 parts. One is descending loop of Henle, then this part is loop of Henle, then ascending loop of Henle. Clear now? So from here, in a loop of Henle and vasa recta, they are going to maintain a one mechanism. Through this mechanism, they are going to reabsorb the number of salts. And this reabsorption and the mechanism which is followed by the vasa recta and loop of Henle help them to concentrate the urine concentration. So once again you see here, from here the ultrafiltrate material now move on to the PCT. PCT is nothing but proximal convoluted tubule. So in this proximal convoluted tubule, after ultrafiltration, a huge amount of water, number of nutrients, number of salts, a number of ions also is going to reabsorb. So in a urine formation, second step is tubular reabsorption. So the tubular reabsorption taken place into the PCT. In the PCT, here you can see it. By a osmosis process, a number of calcium, potassium, glucose, amino acids, water, these everything should be reabsorbed by our body only. Then nearly 75% of water is going to reabsorb. Then this filtrate move on to the next step of the urine nephron only. That is loop of Henle. This loop of Henle is surrounded by a number of blood capillaries. So the blood capillaries, what we call them? Peritubular capillaries. These peritubular capillaries which are surrounding to this loop of Henle, we call them vasa recta. So here in between this vasa recta and loop of Henle, one special mechanism is going to take place. This special mechanism we call them counter current mechanism. What we call them? Counter current mechanism. Under this counter current mechanism, they are going to reabsorb and help them to secrete a number of other chemicals in this next step of the TCT. Clear now? So after tubular reabsorption, here in the loop of Henle and vasa recta, what they are going to maintain? The mechanism. What is that mechanism? Counter current mechanism. This help them to make the water flow easily to the next step. And it makes to the urine concentration more and more. In a human being body, the concentration of urine is 4 times better, 4 times extra only than to the other intestinal fluids only. So this concentrated urine now move into the next step of the nephron, that is the DCT. So the urine, the primary urine which is formed here, first is move on to the descending loop of Henle, then ascending loop of Henle. Here the end of the loop of Henle is going to, by osmosis process only, a number of salts, electrolytes, salts are otherwise called electrolytes, is going to reabsorb from our body. Here you see a sodium, potassium, chlorine is going to reabsorb. Water also get reabsorbed. So more concentrated urine now enter into the next step by a process of secretion. So here hydrogen ions, potassium ion is going to secrete and it's make the concentration or pH of urine is going to maintain. So by ions, hydrogen ions and potassium ions, it helps them to maintain the average pH values into the DCT by a process of secretion. Then a more concentrated urine may be next enter into the collecting tubule, and from this collecting tubule the urine may pass on to the next step that is ureter. Students, here you see some more clear picture of Bowman's capsule. It's a cup-like structure, and the walls of a Bowman's capsule, as I said, is made by a number of cells, 3 type of cells: endothelium cells, basement cells, and podocytes. Podocyte is nothing but a special squamous epithelial cells which have a number of pores. So based on these 3 membranes, the 3 layers of the cells which are surrounded outside and inside, the material may be moved on. Here you see inside the Bowman's capsule, there is a network of blood capillaries. Okay, that together we call them glomerulus. Glomerulus help them to filtrate the urine. So here you see the loop of Henle is exact U-pin shape. Exact U-pin shape only. So due to this U-pin shape, it is other called loop only. Loop of Henle. Here the PCT next continue as a descending loop of Henle, and ascending loop of Henle. Then it's moved to the DCT to collecting tubule. Here you see in this picture, you very clearly see the number of blood capillaries which are surrounded to the loop of Henle throughout their length. This all network of blood capillaries, we call them vasa recta. So in between the vasa recta and loop of Henle, the mechanism is going to maintain. What mechanism? Counter current mechanism. With the help of this counter current mechanism, the reabsorption process is going to make more and more easy, and the flow of water, the flow of salts is move on easily to the next step. Students, have you understand how the filtration, how the urine formation completed in the nephron? Okay. In a next step of formation of urine, that is a concentration of urine. So normally, in a human beings, the urine may consist of 95% of water and some of the electrolytes like urea, uric acids, ammonias, like that only. Along with that, some more other salts are present. They are available in a 2%. Urea is available as in a 2.6%. Uric acids are present 0.3%. Ammonia is present 0.3%. So this is the concentration of the urine. Otherwise we call them chemical composition of the urine. So this concentration of urine is going to maintain by releasing a hormone. That hormone we call them vasopressin. Okay, this concentration of urine is going to maintain, or it's make more concentration, is due to a special hormone, what we call them vasopressin. Vasopressin only. This vasopressin hormone is going to released by our pituitary gland, which are located on your brain only. So from that pituitary gland, when the signals are received by your nephrons, then this hormone is going to produce. This hormone help them to maintain the concentration of urine. You can see some people in during winter season is going to move on to the number of time urinations, or the adult people also. When this concentration is going to get disturbed, okay, in this urine concentration, sugar levels either is going to increase or going to decrease. Why? Because in our body one more controller is present. That controller we call them ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. What is this one? Anti-diuretic hormone. When it is going to maintain properly, then the person urination is going to average only. But if this vasopressin, this anti-diuretic hormone is get disturbed, then what happen? The sugar levels in the urine either is going to increase or it's going to decrease. So when the sugar levels or this amount of other salts is going to get disturbed, mostly in sugar levels, Such condition we call them diabetic. What we call them? Diabetic. Okay na? So if the sugar levels are get low in your urine, such condition we call them diabetic insipidus. Insipidus. How? The urine concentration is going to maintain. That urine concentration is going to maintain by a hormone that we call them vasopressin, or we call them antidiuretic hormone, which are secreted by pituitary gland from your brain only. So here, if the concentration is going to lose, how? If your body is going to produce more amount of vasopressin, or its absence of vasopressin, or if the absence of ADH, antidiuretic hormone, is not going to produce, then what happened? Then the concentration of urine is converted into less concentrated, that is a dilute. So up to here the urine concentration is in which condition? Hypertonic in condition. But due to absence of these hormones, now your urine is converted as a hypo condition, hypotonic in condition. In a hypotonic condition, your body is failed to control the urination. As a result, when the concentration of urine is get diluted, then the person is going to number of times urine only, because your body is failed to control or to maintain the concentration of urine only. So the vasopressin is very important, or otherwise it's called as a antidiuretic hormone only. In such condition, when the vasopressin is failed and it's not released by your pituitary gland or hypothalamus gland, such condition we call them diabetic in condition. Means the sugar concentration is either going to less or it's going to increase, hypotonic or hypertonic. If the sugar levels are decreased in your urine, then such condition is called diabetic insipidus. Insipidus means tasteless. Insipidus means tasteless. Clear now? Insipidus meaning tasteless. If the sugar levels are increased more and more in your urine, then such condition is called diabetic mellitus. Diabetic mellitus. Mellitus means honey. Mellitus means honey. So, if the sugar level or glucose levels are increased more and more in the urine, such condition we call them diabetic mellitus. If the sugar levels are decreased in the urine, then that is called diabetic insipidus. What is the meaning of insipidus? Tasteless. What is the meaning of mellitus? Mellitus means honey. Honey, as you know, it's give so sugary only. So due to that, they are going to suffer from a high diabetic in condition. Okay, students. The next part of urinary tract or the urinary system, excretory system. The next part is ureter. Ureter is going to arise from the kidneys, the portion of pelvis, the depression part, the pelvis part is originated from the pelvis part. It's a long only. It's a so long only, nearly 25 to 30 centimeter in the length, or if you want to make the in inches, it gives to the 10 to 12 inches in the length, and the diameter of this tube is 3 millimeter in diameter. So it's originated from pelvis part of the kidney, continue as a long duct, muscular duct, mostly in white in color. It's so narrow only. It's a muscular part, white in color, so narrow tube-like structure, muscular duct, which originated from pelvis part of the kidney, and next it's open into the urinary bladder. It's open into the urinary bladder. Have you understand? So from both sides of the kidneys, it's originated and it's open into the urinary bladder like this one. Clear? So it's a muscular white color duct in sense of tube only, but so smaller in size. What is the diameter? 3 millimeter in diameter. Okay. It's propel the urine. It's collect the urine from the kidney, carry on through these tubes and send into the urinary bladder. And here, to control the flow back of the urine, to prevent the flow back of the urine from urinary bladder to return back, the end of this ureter they have even small ducts only. The end of the ureter is studded by one special ducts. These special ducts help them to flow back of the urine from urinary bladder to again ureter. This duct, otherwise called sphincter, what we call them sphincter, a small door like structure, apertures are there. These ducts we call them uretrovesical walls. What we call them? Uretrovesical walls. This prevent the flow back of the urine from urinary bladder to return back onto the ureter. Then here the whole process when the urine may be move on propels from kidney to ureter through all the length of this tube, there is one process is going on. Such process we call them peristaltis. So through the peristalsis means one wavy movement, the muscular structures what are present on the tube, they are going to contract one time and expand another time. Some muscles are get contract, next muscles are expand. Second time the first muscle is get contract and second muscle is going to relax. So this alternating concentration, contraction and expanding nature, we call them peristalsis. Already we discussed in the peristaltic movement in your nutrition lesson also. The walls of the esophagus, which is made by two types of cells. Here also the track of this ureter is also made by a muscles only. Okay. These muscles help them to make the one wavy movement by contraction and expanding. So by themselves, by contract and expand, they make one wavy movement. Such movement is called peristaltis movement. Through this peristaltic wavy movement, the urine may be expelled from kidney to ureter and from ureter to urinary bladder. So have you understand about the ureter? Next you move to the next part of the excretory system, that is a urinary bladder. So next part of excretory system is urinary bladder. So urinary bladder also is one muscular organ, elastic in nature, means it's able to expand and contract. It's a muscular organ and so flexible in nature. Okay na? And it's a hollow tube only. One hollow tube, bag-like structure only. And here also, to prevent the leakage of urine from human being's body or to any body, the end of this urinary bladder also studded by one sphincter. Both sides two sphincters are present. These sphincters also called walls. It's help them to prevent the leakage of urine from the body only. Clear now? And what is the main function of urinary bladder? It's going to collect the all waste which comes from kidney through ureter. So the normal capacity of this urinary bladder is, the range is, they are going to able to store the urine in 300 to 800 ml of urine. So this is the part of a urinary bladder. Next opening is, the urine may be passed out from the body, that is a urethra. Let me discuss urethra. The urinary bladder which are in pear shape, one hollow, spacic and flexible bag-like structure, it's going to open out of the body through one opening. That opening we call them urethra. That opening we call them urethra. Okay, na? It's also a one tube-like structure only, one duct-like structure only. But it's going to connect the urinary bladder to outside the body. Urinary bladder is connecting to outside the body through that opening. That opening is called urethra. Clear now? Here the end of this urethra also studded by one walls only, one sphincters only. Otherwise it's called as a posterior urethral wall. What we call them? Posterior urethral wall. In previous class I said the end of the urethra is studded by one sphincters. What we call them? Uretrovesical walls. Same here also present, but we named as a posterior urethral walls only. But the length of this urethra is different in men and different in women. In men, the length of urethra in men is going to give you 20 centimeter in length. 20 centimeter in length. In such a way, in women, it gives only very short 4 centimeter in length only. Okay, na? So the length of the urethra in men, it gives to 20 centimeter in length. At the same time, women, it gives to the only 4 centimeter. Due to the less length of this urethra, in females only you find out number of urinary infections are seen. But compared to the men, in women only in number of urinary infections we can see. And in men, we are going to see very less infection into the urinary tract due to the length of this urethra. When your urinary bladder is going to fill up to 400 ml of urine, then the person is going to feel for urination. Okay. So the process of urination, otherwise called nutrition. Actually what happened? From the nephron, when this collected urine is sent out from the ureter to the urinary bladder, the urinary bladder, when it's going to fill up to 400 ml of urine, then they are going to receive a signals from CNS. What is the meaning of CNS? Central nervous system. Central nervous system. They send a signal to the urinary bladder. The walls of the urinary bladder, which are filled with a special epithelial cells, these cells receive the signal from the CNS. As a result, what happened? When the signals is going to receive? When your urinary bladder is maximum filled with a 400 ml of urine. So they may receive the signal. Then the walls of the urinary bladder plus this urethral walls is going to relax. During this relaxation, the person is going to move on. They are going to remove the urine from their body. Such process is called micturition, or we call them urination. What we call them urination. Is called them urination. The process of pass out the urination, otherwise called micturition. Clear now? So here, who involves to relax the muscles of the urinary bladder? At the same time, this urethral walls, CNS send the signals. When the receptors which are present into the urinary bladder receive such signals, they begin to relax. As a result, the urination process is going on. So the nerves which involve to relax this urination, such relaxation process, otherwise called micturition reflex. What we call them? Micturition reflex. Okay, now in such condition, urinary bladder have the capacity to store maximum amount of urine, nearly 700 to 800 ml of urine on their body, on their bodies only. So per day maximum we are going to release 1.6 liters of the urine per day. 1.6 liter of urine is going to urinated from our body. The process of urination is going to increase when such persons are take the more amount of fluids like water, fruit juices, drinks or any fruits. Amount of water when it intake, then nutrition levels are going to increase. If you intake the less amount of watery content, then the nutrition levels also get decreased only. So maximum per day we are going to release the 1.6 to 1.8 liters of the urine per day. So students, let me see what is the composition of urine. Here let me discuss what is the nature of the urine. It's a transparent fluid, very transparent only, but it gives to a amber color. Amber color means light golden color or yellow in color. Light golden in color or yellow in color. Clear now? If we are going to take the more protein rich food, then there is a chance to remove the more urea only. So urine have more amount of urea, that in previous class already we discussed. It gives you 2.5% of urea in the urine only. So if you take the more protein rich food, there is a chance of more formation of urea in your urine only. Clear? At the same time, from this urine, maximum 96%, urine may contain 96% of water. At the same time, a number of electrolytes, that is a organic salts, urea, uric acids, or creatinine or creatine, these are the some of the salts which may present into the urine. Okay na? Then along with this organic salts, some of the inorganic salt solutes also present, like sodium, chlorine, potassium. These are inorganic solutes which are present in a 1.5%. Clear now? Along with that, your urine is slightly acidic in nature. What is the pH of urine? It gives you 6.0 acidic in nature. But in earlier time, that is acidic in nature, later it's converted as in a alkaline. Why? Here, when the urine may store for a long time, means if the urine may store for a long time, the urea may be converted into ammonia. So when the ammonia is get formed in our body, then the acidic nature may converted into alkalinic in nature. Clear now? Then the presence of glucoses. What is the glucoses? In which form? Either they are present in the creatinine form or they are present in a creatine form. These are one forms of glucose in our urine. If these glucose levels are increased, that indicates the which problem? Diabetic mellitus. If these glucose levels are highly present in the urine, that indicates the diabetes mellitus. In previous class I said no, mellitus means honey. What is the meaning of mellitus? Mellitus gives the meaning of honey. Insipidus may give the meanings of tasteless. Means these glucose levels are decreased in the urine, then that condition is diabetes insipidus. If the glucose levels are increased medically, if the analysis and if they form the serum creatinine levels are increased, how they diagnosed? The person have a diabetes, they are going to collect the serum of creatinine from this kidneys and they find out what are the levels are present, this creatinine in the urine. So based on this serum of creatinine levels, they are going to give you the suggestion, either the person is suffering from diabetes mellitus, that is high sugar levels, or the person is suffering from low sugar, that condition indicates diabetes insipidus. Clear now? If the kidneys fail to control this filtration process, if the kidneys are failed to remove this all organic or inorganic salts from the blood. Then what happened? In such condition, either we call them renal failures. What we call them? Renal failure. RF. Either we call them renal failure or we call them ESRD. What is the meaning of ESRD? End stage of renal disease. Renal in sense of kidney. Renal in sense of kidney. So, ESRD is gives to the full form of end stage of renal disease. End stage of renal disease. In such condition, when your kidney fail to filter this organic or inorganic salts from the blood, such condition we call them ESRD or we call them end stage of renal disease. End stage of renal disease. In such condition, when the kidney fail to filter such all organic or inorganic salts, such condition we call them uremia. What we call them? Uremia. In such condition, the person's foot are going to swell. Sometimes hands and face also get swell only. The person may feel so tired only. Okay, now so weak only. So, in such condition, what is the alternation? When your kidneys get failed, what is the alternatives? How the person is going to treat? That we studied and that we discussed in our next class. So, in this class, what we learn it, Nana? Up to here we learn it, how kidney is going to filter. So, each kidney have millions of filtrate units. What we call them? Uriniferous tubules or nephrons. Nephron structure is extremely different only. It's so microscopic, but they may do a wonderful function to filter the blood, and in the blood what are the extra salts are present or what are the organic or inorganic salts are present, extra amount of water is present, it's going to remove it. So, the process of expel out the waste from the kidney, what we call them? Excretions. So, through the nephrons, how the filtration process is going to throughout the kidney, we learn in this class. And remaining part of the excretory organs. What are the remaining part? Kidney is the main excretory organ. Kidney is next connected to the long two tubes, white color ducts. What we call them? Ureter. Then ureter is open into one muscular organ. That flexible organ is there. One bag-like structure is there. Muscular bag-like structure, that is a urinary bladder. Urinary bladder is going to open out of the body through one opening that we call them urethra. Urinary bladder, then urethra, then ureter is going to controlled by sphincters. Okay, that sphincter help them to relax or relaxation of urination, or it help them to prevent the leakage of urine, prevent the backflow of the urine. At the same time, it helps for the micturition, that is a urination process. And now, as we learn it, what is the composition of urine? Clear now? So, dear students, I hope you understand the class, and based on that, I am going to ask you some questions. Try to give your answers. Which gland secretes vasopressin? Absence of which hormone produce dilute urine? In diabetes insipidus, what is the meaning of insipidus? The movement of urine in the ureter is go through which movement? What is the name of that movement? The storage capacity of urinary bladder is how much urine is stay back or collected from your urinary bladder. The total amount of urine excreted per day is about what? Write down the full form of ESRD. Thank you.